I can see you. Can you see me? I'll wait just a moment as we get ready to hold our worship service. I'm wearing a mask this morning to let you know that if you are fully vaccinated and boosted, our COVID team says you can take them off. But if you are not and you are here, please do wear them. And we want everyone to wear a wristband for the benefit of those who are more at risk than others. If you see someone with a green wristband, it means, hug me, I'm yours. If you see someone with a yellow wristband, I would welcome a wave, maybe an elbow. And if you see someone with a red wristband, it says, cut me a lot of slack. Because all of us, however comfortable we are with our own risk, are not equal. And we are a community who cares for each other no matter who we are and how we are. And in order for us to be together as one people, we must care for each other as one community. My name is Fred Wooden. I am the interim minister to this community, known as Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation, which is located here in Chandler, but not just in Chandler. Because among other things, we are everywhere you are. Payson, Pine, places like Michigan, locations we do not know because our virtual community is there. Ordinarily, I'd say it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and it is. But war has thrown its shadow over the land. Though there were plenty of wars before Russia invaded Ukraine, we would do well to remember that Syria and Myanmar and Libya and Ethiopia are still torn by their own conflicts. So how can we say it's a beautiful day in our neighborhood? Because, as the great Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore observed, that the wings of the blackbird cannot stain the sky. The sorrows of the world cannot take away our hope. And in this house, wherever house you are in, you are the sky that reminds us to be hopeful. Because it was exactly 2 years ago, before I met you, that COVID sent you away from this room. 2 years ago. And today we begin to return and reclaim and renew this place as the center of a community that has grown wider and deeper in those years. We should be grateful for that. So we're going to practice being the larger community that we've become. Last week, Katie invited people to say hello to one another, so I'm going to get Libby back there to see if she can put up on our screen here the faces of some of those people who are joining us virtually. Hello, everyone out there. Everyone in the room, please wave and say hello. It's so good to see so many of you. And now that we're together, let us gather our minds and our hearts as well as our bodies, and we do so with music as we again welcome the wonderful pianist Chen Bai Shui to gather us with music.
Thank you. How beautiful. And now, if you will please join me as we light our chalice with our chalice lighting words. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love which calls us to work for justice. And now we'll continue with more music. Our opening hymn is Just as Long as I Have Breath. And it's a video, so let's join together in our opening hymn, saying yes to life, to truth, and to love. To follow guidance from our COVID team, please limit your singing to a hum if you're present in our sanctuary. And if you're online, please sing along. As long as we're alive and here, wherever you say hello, yes to life. Okay, did I screw up? You're good. Okay.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as visionless, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marcy Bowden. I'm your Director of Faith Formation. Now is the time, if you're in your home watching us on Zoom, to bring the children towards your device for our story today. Our story is You Matter by Christian Robinson. And in these times, today we dedicate this story to the people of Ukraine and to any of you among us who need a reminder. You matter. The stuff too small to see. Those who swim with the tide and those who don't. The first to go and the last. You matter. When everyone thinks you're a pest. Go back one slide, please. Yeah, sorry, I think I got ahead. When something is just out of reach. When everyone is too busy to help, you matter. If you fall down, if you have to start all over again, even if you're really gassy, you matter. Sometimes home is far away. Sometimes someone you love says goodbye. Sometimes you feel lost and alone. But you matter. Old and young, the first to go and the last, the stuff too small to see. You matter. Any children and adults going with us to Faith Formation can meet us out on the patio.
The chatter of little children is always a welcome noise to me. And I apologize because I didn't get the COVID update. We can sing. Who knew? Good morning. I am Roz Hawkins, and it's my privilege to serve as your worship associate today. We welcome one and all who have joined us in person or in the virtual space, asking that you bring your total self, just as you are, to join us in service today. To start, a few housekeeping points and announcements. For those young ones who might become fidgety during service, there's a baby comfort room to your right to use as needed, and equipped with a speaker so that you can hear what's happening here in the sanctuary. For those who might need a listening ear, after service or on Zoom during service, Randy Galbraith, standing in the back, is here and will be available after service as our lay pastoral associate. And Dan Schulte will be available in chat on Zoom. Know that there are places where the chat is limited, so please feel free to do that now. And look for Dan's message online, and you can respond to him personally. We also will have Nancy Nilsson available for a welcome circle after service in the left-hand corner of the sanctuary, so please go by and visit. We do appreciate your presence in our spaces, and we're glad that you have chosen to spend this time with us today. As is our custom, if we have visitors in person, would you please stand, if able? Well, none today, but we're still looking for you to come. So if you're out there in Zoom land, put a message in chat and just say hi. Thank you for being with us today, new and old. Today, Reverend Fred's sermon is titled, Lent 1. It's been a long time coming. The words of Sam Cooke say why I went on pilgrimage to Selma in 2019. Wow, that's a long title. Though I don't have a preview to what the sermon will be, this title evoked a range of emotions for me. While I do not personally practice Lent season, I do feel that there is value in making a commitment to sacrifice something for a period of time, to do a personal healing exercise, if you will. And then Sam Cooke was one of my favorite artists as a young girl. Those words from his song, "Change Gonna Come," ring in my head. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Now you can tell I can't sing, but I can let you know what those words mean. It's a slow rhythm, with a smooth voice, stretches out the melody in each word. I feel the sense that something has to change. There's an inevitability in this song. Then I reflect. It's 1963 and the Vietnam War is taking our young men to fight for a cause not quite understood. One of my fourth grade classmates is crying just having received news that her cousin lost his life in the conflict, and my heart sinks because my uncle has just received orders to go. A few days later, the news that President Kennedy has been shot is broadcasted in our school, and we feel a tragedy that we do not understand. Earlier that year, Dr. Martin Luther King had given the famous "I Have a Dream" speech, asking for change he had seen in the visions of things to come. I lived to see many of those changes that he spoke so eloquently about, but he did not. For years, I marched in his honor so that his dreams may become reality. I reflect because I know I stand on the shoulders of these men and many other people to see change, growth, hope, and relish in the compassion we have shown each other. It is because of you, our work, our covenant, that I can still believe in current time that change is going to come. I ask you to remember how far we've come to recognize the humanness in people of color, the LGBTQ community, the disabled, women, the economically deprived. There is no other, but we are one body of people who, beneath the edifice of many hues of color, are brothers and sisters in the pursuit of what is right and just. On Wednesday, a longtime friend of mine posted that it was World Compliment Day, challenging others to set a goal to compliment at least 5 people every day. So during the season of reflecting and renewal, revival, I take on that challenge and I invite you to do it too. To bring more smiles than tears, more positive than negative, more light in the darkest of days. You are all beautiful, and you are welcome here. And now I give you to Fred.
Oh, heavens. Offering, business, filthy lucre in the sacred house. But we all know that it is our labor we give. It is of ourselves. And you're here to hear the words that say, as the book said earlier, you matter. Every bit of you is essential to every one of us. And all of us are essential to everyone else. So when we give something, we are not just depriving ourselves of money and maybe a good cup of coffee, which, by the way, is on the porch and you're supposed to drink it. Speaking of which, so I went down to Dunkin' Donuts this morning and said, we need coffee. Give me 3 boxes of coffee. It's out there, drink it. I spent $60 on you. So when the ushers come by, remember that, all right? Because it is the giving back and forth that makes us a vital community. As you're going to hear from my colleague, Reverend Kristen Grassel-Schmidt, there's a song, from you I receive, to thee I give. Together we share, and by this we live. So give, damn it. So that you can receive that full value to which you are entitled. I invite the ushers now to give you that chance to make good on my coffee. And I give those people at home that chance because you can click or text or email or come on by. But let's listen to Kristen Grassel-Schmidt as you peel forth a little bit of your filthy lucre.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
I was really excited this morning when I walked in and the sanctuary looked normal again. It's great to be coming back. It's been a slow progress, but how exciting it is now. So now is the time for centering, where we take a minute to be mindful, to ensure that we are open and present in this moment to ourselves and to one another. Please hum, sing, or simply meditate on the words and beautiful melody in our hymn, Winds Be Still. May this music be our prayer.
Winds be still, storm clouds pass, in silence come. Peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all find tranquility. Bird, fly high, lift our gaze toward distant view. Help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far and lead us each to see how we move through the winds of eternity.
Take a breath. Let this song be a prayer, a meditation, sending peace and love to all.
Light shine in, illuminate our inward view. Help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true so we may join our songs in new sounds that become full symphonies. Winds be still, storm clouds pass, and silence come. Peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in calm let all find tranquility.
Thank you, Roz, for mentioning that this is the first Sunday in the Christian season of Lent, which we do not formally observe. But as you may recall, I believe that we should focus less on festive days and talk about spiritual seasons. A period of time of more than a day, a week, a two, a month, what it takes for seeds to germinate. And Lent is a time, whether we like it or not, at the end of winter in the northern hemisphere, when the cold begins to let go. Not in Arizona necessarily. And we begin to see, even here in Arizona, that the trees and the plants come back into our world. It was May Sarton who observed that just as you cannot have flowers without the sun, you cannot have growth without the dark. That we need inward times to nourish the life we need in outward ways. And you need introverts like me to hold you extroverts in check. It is a time of gathering ourselves individually and collectively for allowing the quiet, the dark, the doubt, the fear to have its moment so that we might be ready to come forth from it, aware of its power, alert to its meaning, and ready to live with it rather than despite it. And so our prayer today is to have the courage to dwell in the shadows, our own and others, of a nation and a world, to be with them in such a way that we can accompany them as we would ourselves on difficult times. Lent is a passage, perhaps through a dark place, but it does end with Easter and the promise of a new life. With that thought in mind, I encourage you to give yourself to prayer, and you may do so quietly, or you may light a candle of joy or sorrow over by the window. Place a stone in the sand as you wish, while our wonderful pianist Chen Bai Shui gives us Lilacs by Rachmaninoff. For those of you joining us on Zoom, we applauded Chen Bai Shui with our hands because we didn't want our clapping to intrude upon that last beautiful note that came out of that. You wouldn't want to crush the lilacs, would you? In the autumn of 2019, I realized it was long past time for me to pay my respects to those who were in Selma in 1965. This would not be my first pilgrim journey. I had made 7 already on 4 different continents, but it was time to do something at home. By accident, I had discovered my need for solitude as a spiritual practice, but sitting in a room or kneeling on a cushion didn't suit me. However, walking did. And so from England to Zimbabwe, from Peru to Japan, I had walked here, there, and everywhere. For the sake of Chen Bai Shui, I have climbed up Mount Taishan, all the way up and all the way down, 12,000 steps. Wandering, walking is my spiritual practice, but I had not done so in America. And where should I go? And I thought again, and realized that it was time for me to go to Selma and replicate that walk that was made so long ago. You're right, Roz, it was Sam Cooke's words that helped me frame what I was doing. You quoted the second verse, but it's the first verse I'm starting with. And while I could have had them cue it up on YouTube, I'll just read them. I was born by the river in a little tent, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is going to come. So no, I was not born in a tent or by a river. But in a sense, I have been running all my life. Since graduating high school, I have lived in 9 homes in 7 states while serving 6 churches. I ran away from my childhood to go to college. I ran toward my vocation to become a minister. I ran away from conflicts in churches and found another job. I've run toward this and away from that, always in search of something. Then in 2012, for some reason I decided to walk along Hadrian's Wall and began to sense there was another way of moving, not toward or from, but just moving. Or as a way of being in myself. So moving is kind of what I do. That's my prayer. And it's like a river which keeps moving but never changes its location. I find in the walk a stillness, and in the wandering a center. Going to Selma would do more than that, though. It would deepen me in ways I did not expect. But when did any journey come out as expected? Isn't the reason we travel is to discover what we don't already know? My hope is that by inviting you along this week and next week and all the way through Easter Sunday, you may find something similar in you as I did in me. That the struggle America has with racism is at its center a spiritual one, meaning something so deeply true that it cannot simply be repaired by changing a law or posting a meme or telling people that Black lives matter. And because it is a spiritual struggle about what matters most, it is social as well as personal, and personal as much as it is political. In a sense, until I have made it my story, I am incomplete. And I think that's true for everyone. It's been a long time coming. I said to myself, but I know a change is going to come. The route from Selma to Montgomery is now a National Park Service trail. Though it's not an actual trail at all, you can't show up and start walking because you see back in 1965 they marched along the highway itself. So now the highway's been expanded and enlarged, and you drive from point to point and read various markers. But a pilgrimage for me means walking. There is no pilgrim by putting your foot on the gas. But was it possible? Could I really walk along the same way? Could I trudge alongside the highway and get there? I didn't have people setting up tents for me. The answer is yes, but it comes with an asterisk. I remembered something. There is a UU community in Montgomery. And so I called their minister and said, might you be able to help me? And it turns out they could. Over the phone and by email, we arranged that every day someone would drop me off at one point and pick me up at another, and picking me up and dropping me off at my lodgings as I went. Whew, that made it easier. But now I had to get to Selma, and that meant flying to Montgomery, and that meant taking airplanes. Not hard. I flew from Grand Rapids to Atlanta, where I had to change flights. Now, if you've ever been to Hartsfield Airport, you know that it's a city unto itself. And of course, the airplane I came in on was in a different terminal from the airplane I'm going out on. And I ran, quite literally ran, bag and backpack on back, from one place to another, going underground, going along the concourses, arriving at the gate to watch them close the door on my flight. So I had to take the next flight, which was 3 hours later, which meant instead of arriving at my hotel at 8:45, I arrived there at 12:45 in the morning, Central Time, which meant it was 1:45 Eastern Time, meaning I was tired and cranky. Even so, I was awake at 6:45 with only 5 hours sleep, feeling a little unsettled yet, a feeling that stayed with me most of that trip, but for many reasons. With my heart as overcast as the sky, I prepared for my first day, which meant going from Montgomery to Selma and exploring the town where so much had taken place. My lift arrived shortly after 9, a member of our UU community there, and being a church member, I kept my pastor face on and enjoyed a rich tale of Southern roots and military family and parents with different religious lives. And this was not told to me in silence or confidence, awakening to being a trans woman and the challenges that brought to being a Southern military, almost not quite yet female in a family that had never had one like that before. We stopped at the official interpretive center, which is halfway along the route. After I had heard her story, I bought a cap and picked up the official guide. And as we drove over the famous bridge into Selma, I said, "So, Emerald, are you hungry? I'm buying." And so we parked and walked a few blocks to a local diner, which had those wonderful linoleum floors, very like the ones we have right here. And those sticky Formica-covered booths where when you sit on the seats, you squeak. And it was a laminated menu full of comfort foods and color pictures where the colors were a little too bright. My driver got the vegetable plate with beans and rice and collards and broccoli casserole. I got a tuna salad plate that was far too large for me. I sent back a third of it and left the triangles of American cheese that were arranged at the compass points on the plate. I tell you this so you have a sense of the place I was in. I say this with no judgment. I say this with no castigating remarks at all. But I knew when I looked at my plate that I was in Alabama. Selma, as a town, could be a postcard for a southern town. It has a wide main street with old storefronts that reflect earlier and more prosperous times. Today, though, less than half the street had businesses going, but to our mutual surprise, one of them had a Black Lives Matter sign out front and sported both a rainbow and a trans flag. Selma, who knew? That it existed here was a surprise, not just to me, the northerner, but to Emerald, the southerner, as well. There were gaps in the sidewalks where grasses were sprouting and bushes were flowering. Some of them were quite large. It had been a while since Selma was a bustling town. Were we out west, tumbleweeds would have been quite at home, flowing across the land. Back at the car, I said thanks to Emerald and breathed in to begin my task. A block away was the National Park Interpretive Center, located at the foot of the bridge. That's where I began. I lingered over it, having never known the many factors that coalesced in Selma. There was the Dallas County Voters League, a group of black ministers and other leaders trying to register black voters in a state where less than 2% of black citizens had successfully registered to vote. There was the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, outside agitators as they were called, who had come down to do some of the dirty work with them. All of this began back in the early 60s. What became the Selma March involved people from many towns and several counties. I learned names I had never known. The Courageous Eight, who ran the Dallas County Voters Project, and the sad and often overlooked story of Jimmy Lee Jackson, who was the one murdered over in Marion, Alabama, when a group of black citizens tried to register and were assaulted by the state police. And he became a victim of the beatings that day as he tried to save his mother, and that happened in the weeks before Selma. All of this was something I did not know. So often we see the end of a process and little of the beginning. We hear the names of those who made it to the end and not those who were at the start. Now, all Unitarian Universalist clergy have a connection to this story through the other murder that you may have heard about, that of our colleague, the Reverend James Reeb, which came just prior to the march itself. That crime was the thing that propelled Selma into a national event, which was good for the issue, but bitterly ironic because the murder of Jimmy Lee Jackson was the reason it started. But he was a black man, and we didn't notice. James Reeb was a white man down there at the call of Dr. King after Bloody Sunday. Jimmy Lee Jackson's killer was not known or charged, was known but not charged until 2005, at which point he was so old that when he was convicted, he served 5 months for killing a man. As I stood at the desk before leaving, I mentioned what I was doing to those behind the desk and how it was to honor those who had known James Reeb and his friend, my friend Clark Olson, who was with him that night and was beaten as well. And as I began telling them, I began to cry, choking up, which told me that maybe my reasons for being there were more than I myself knew. Perhaps this was a journey not just for learning or honoring. I left the interpretive center, which is at the foot of the bridge. I thought, should I cross? And I said, no, not yet. First, I had to find the place where James Reeb and Clark Olson and Orloff Miller were assaulted. Just a few blocks away, the interpretive center gave me directions. The three of them came down with other white clergy when Dr. King called for help after Bloody Sunday. You've seen those pictures, the assault on the bridge. You've seen so many times. But I was on a vacant lot between a bail bond office and an older building, now with a mural on it, reading a state historic marker on the sidewalk with Reeb's picture on one side and a summary of what happened on the other. They were so young, barely 30, full of the energy and conviction of youth. Others came too, of course, including my own intern supervisor, who now lives in Tucson, is well north of 80. By that night, though, back in Selma, having turned the wrong way because they were new in town, they were followed by 4 likely drunken white men who saw an opportunity to scare these outside agitators. They had baseball bats and pipes. They came up from them from behind. James Reeb did not even see the person because he was assaulted from behind when a bat crushed the back of his skull, and he fell to the sidewalk there. Not until 2017 did we know the perpetrator. He had died years before. No one who was there that evening served a single day. What was clear and remained so after I left was the reminder that, again, it takes the murder of a white man to make the suffering of black people visible to America. I headed east, the homes ranging from the adorable to deplorable. Few were large, none were opulent. I was in the black part of town. I knew that because I was going to Brown's Memorial Chapel, the place where they had all gathered each time before each march. There were 3, in case you didn't know. They are surrounded by the George Washington Carver homes. You know what that means. They're public housing put up in the middle of the 20th century in that ragged, barely adequate style that we use for public housing. The chapel itself is much older. It's the largest black church in town, and naturally the place where the community would meet to organize and where King eulogized Reeb the day after he died. It's closed today because it's a weekday. I'm the only one on the street. There are monuments in front to Dr. King and the other martyrs, including Reeb, but also names I never knew. All of them jailed, beaten, some of them killed. A lot of folks paid in that infamous currency of blood. Few of them are still alive today. An occasional car passes. At the corner, a pair of gentlemen sit on the tailgate of a truck. To them, it is just a day in Selma. For me, it is a place of reverence. I head back toward the bridge along the decaying sidewalks, common in poor parts of town, where the sidewalk goes up and down and vanishes and reappears. I walk across intersections with traffic lights that have no traffic until I reach the old Depot Museum. Turns out to be the City Museum, which, like so many other municipal museums in small cities, is mostly a well-documented attic of everything that was given to them over the years. It's housed in the former Confederate foundry. Selma was the Pittsburgh of the Confederacy. I did not know that. Situated on the Alabama River, it was the supplier of war materiel, cannons, guns, bullets, rifles. Inside this museum is a room devoted to the war, a big room, and the one devoted to Reconstruction and civil rights, a smaller room. There are pictures of black folks before the Civil War, enslaved people standing outside their shacks. Off in a corner is a photo of General Edmund Wilson Pettus. Yes, the one for whom the bridge is named. Native of Selma, their heroic son, who grew up to be a general in the Confederate Army and was elected to the U.S. Senate after the Civil War. In fact, he was the last Confederate general elected to the U.S. Senate after the Civil War. And consider for a moment that there were Confederate generals serving in the United States Senate, and we wonder why things didn't get better after the Civil War. But also this means the bridge means more than I realized. It was built to honor that man and what he stood for. Pettus was the local hero, embodied all that the white community admired, looked his part with the frosty eyebrows and the white goatee. He could have walked out of a cartoon of a Confederate general. The bridge bearing his name, though, was built in 1940. Marching across it toward Montgomery, the original Confederate capital, was far more than coincidental to the marchers. They were about to put the Confederacy behind them and go present a bill of lading to the people in Montgomery. Selma, remember, was the armory of the Confederacy. It was defended in that last battle by Nathan Bedford Forrest. Who knows that name? You don't? Well, meet the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan as well. It sits very nearly at the center of the state of Alabama. And if you've ever seen license plates, you know they say the heart of Dixie. I was in the heart of Dixie, where the Confederacy may be teetering, but it clings to the banks of the Alabama River and will not let go. To march over that bridge in 1965 would have been an act of monumental defiance of the culture. It was. Which is why the police wouldn't let them do it. Not once, but twice. And not until the federal government sent troops to protect them from their own state police were they able to do it. And so they determined to leave Selma behind, to leave behind the Confederacy. In 2018, while canvassing for votes, I am a failed candidate, by the way. I went to a door and knocked on the door. We all knock on doors. It's called knocking. It's what we do. I hated doing it. And the door opened and a woman of color, older than me, answered. She was eager to get my literature, but she said, "Please come in." We're told not to go inside. That could be complicated. But there was something about her that was worth saying yes to. And in her living room, my campaign manager and I saw an enormous quilt that she had made. And it illustrated in thread and cloth her youth as a girl when she had gone to all the protests down south. That she was there in Selma that day. And elsewhere, she was jailed at the age of 13 years old. By the end of the day, I knew I had to walk the bridge that day. I would do it again the next day. And so back at the foot of the bridge, people crossing blithely and nonchalantly back and forth, I stood there. Because I realized that unlike the woman in Grand Rapids, unlike my internship supervisor, unlike Clark or James or Orloff, I would not have gone. My fear would have kept me home. And at that moment, I realized why I was there. As penance. This is Lent, after all. For the cowardice I find in myself, and because pilgrimage has its origins in penance, that you go on them to make up for the sins you've committed before. I'm here to pay for my sin, to walk off my own recalcitrance, my own indifference, my fear and my cowardice. On the other side, a man saw me with my backpack and my stick and asked what I was doing. And I told him I was here to walk from Selma to Montgomery. He said, "I'm going to call the newspaper. That would make a great story." I paused for a moment. We clergy are always eager to spread the word. But I knew as surely as anything that would be the wrong thing to do. "No," I said, as gently as possible. "This is personal." And just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is going to come. Roz, would you like to help us sing our closing song?
Thank you, Reverend Fred. You know, I think there are a lot of people that might need to do penance. I don't think Reverend Fred is one of them, but what a lovely thought. Now, please join in singing with our VUU quartet, singing our hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Out of the dusk comes a shadow, then a spark. Out of the cloud comes silence, then a lark. Out of the heart a rapture, then a pain. Out of the dead cold ashes, life again. Roz, send us forth by helping us extinguish the chalice, but not our hearts.
And now, as we leave this place, as you shut down your chalices at home, wherever you may be, let's remember these words. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our world with compassion until we meet again. Now, as we go, may we go in peace. May we remember what we've heard today. May we compliment each other a little bit more. Go in peace, my friends. Go in peace.
You guys can unmute now. I'm sorry about that. We were troubleshooting something here in the booth.
Oh, I'm sorry too. Most of the people have left. Well, I'm gonna leave too, Libby, okay?
All right, sorry about that, you guys.
All right, thanks. Take care. Have a good week.
You too.
You too, you too, you too, Jerry.
See you, Rachel.
Okay, Norm.
I think overall the volunteers for the audio and visual are doing a good job. I know it's tough and, you know, they've got a big responsibility and they're volunteers and the equipment probably isn't what it should be or set up. So
I know. We're not, there are a lot of things happen with electronics. Who knows? They're gifted. They're gifted at any rate, whatever happens. So
yes,
we're grateful for their work, right?
exactly.
Norm, I was going to ask, now that there's so few people, it's kind of like a personal. Do you live near Tempe? Do you live around here?
I live near 202 and Chandler Boulevard. I mean, I-10 and 202 where they come together. Just off Chandler Boulevard and 40th Street.
Chandler, okay. Yeah, I guess it's a little farther. But I was thinking of having a men's group here that's mostly with neighbors and so on, but some VUU people too. And I guess we'll just put out a general invitation. That's for Vince, not for me. I mean, I'd love to see the men too, but I don't know. Would you be interested?
It would depend on when it would meet.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like Saturday, maybe the third Saturday morning of the month, like at 10 o'clock or something.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't set it up yet, but I've got to do that, I think. So let's see. I don't know if that would work for this month. Yeah, it might work.
I tell you where to get the Caring Neighbors Committee, which I'm on. They have everybody organized by zip code.
Oh.
And for the Caring Neighbors Coordinator. So for each area has that list. Actually, I have that list too for whatever zip code you're in. I don't know whether I can send it to you. I guess I could, but Bev Rogers is one of the coordinators. Is the director or whatever it is. I'm a neighborhood coordinator and she's one of the coordinators for all of the UU, and she has the master list, and it's all organized by where people live by zip code, and sometimes the zip code I guess is cut in half.
Okay.
But you know Bev Rogers?
No, I don't. But Bev Rogers, what do I do? Just Google her or
Well, I think I've got 312-315-4699. I'll send you her email.
Okay, great. Great.
And
Right, and I'll have to call the office because is there a list of members and addresses and stuff like that?
yes, there is.
Okay.
And there's there's a list that people generally use, and then there's an up-to-date list. And I'm trying to think of the name of the software that's on, but on the committee we have that list, and they've given us passwords to get in because we have to keep up with the people in our neighborhood. I don't remember who your neighborhood coordinator is for Tempe. Oh, it's Linda Stenholm, I think.
Okay.
You should have gotten some emails and postcards and things from her.
Yeah, she lives not too far. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have, not on this issue, not on any issue, because I really want to set that up, for Vince, because he's not for me, of course, but then for women too. I'd like a women's group. So, so we'll work on that, see if that'll work.
Yes, great.
Yeah, because there were two men's groups in VUU, but they were both filled when we were going in person. And now I just don't think it's, it's better if we could do it right locally, and we could host it right here in our front patio, because it's a big patio and it's out front and nobody has to go through the house or anything to get there. So it would work. It
I was
would-
under the understanding that it was operating, the men's group. I don't know why I
Well,
thought it was.
I mean, when we started coming, like about 2 years, no, how long have we been here? It's been 4 years now, geez. When we started coming, they said it was full, that those groups were full, but then I didn't work to start another one. And so anyway, that's the situation. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, or maybe what I'll do, maybe before sending you Beverly's contact information, I'll ask Beverly if you can have it.
Okay.
And then it would be easier just if I just send it to you, because I can cut and paste out of Excel, and I've run into some people on the committee who cannot, and so I've cut and pasted their information and then emailed it to them.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
Okay. So now Beverly, is she in charge of these groups?
no, she's in charge of the Caring Neighbors Committee.
Okay.
And the Caring Neighbors Committee is organized by zip code, and each zip code, and sometimes there's multiple zip codes combined together, has a coordinator for the zip code. And I'm the coordinator for 85048 and 85045.
I see.
And so if you just wanted your zip code, what zip code would you want?
85282.
Okay. And I could ask her if I could just cut out 85282 and send it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
And
that.
then
Because
then
I
you
don't
have
know,
all the information.
yeah, I don't know if anybody else would like to travel, but if you would, like, especially if people that are like used to getting things going are in the group, that would help.
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple people that are in circle 9. We have these circles, connection circles, and but anyway, I'm going to check with them too.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
well, thank you, Norm. This is very helpful.
Yeah, I'm in the LGBTQ connection circle.
It's
the first and third Wednesdays at 6:30.
Uh-huh.
And so we're doing it by Zoom, and
Right.
it works well.
Right. No, ours works well. We're doing ours on, well, today, we're doing it today, so I have to read the the latest
We're still trying to figure out why.
from Touchstones. I need to read that because that'll be the topic.
Mhm.
So, but at any rate, if you would help that would be great. If you could send that, or ask her if you could send it. But anyway, Beverly, should I,
I'll email her and ask if I can just cut and paste that into an email and send it to you.
Okay.
And that would be easier for everybody, because getting out of her software is probably as up to date as out of that master software that the UU keeps, which you need a password and everything to get into. But they gave us the access to that, but I don't really use it, because what she sends is what we have, and we're supposed to keep updating it. And I assume that Linda has for your area. I think it's Linda Stenholm for your area.
Yeah, I think so. I think she lives fairly close. I know.
Yeah.
Dropped her off. Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay. And
Good, I will do that.
All right, Norm. Well, this, having no other people around has helped me today.
Yeah, right. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you. You have a good week, and see you next week, if not before. No, third. Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye. Lovely.
Bye-bye.
trying to make an analog system do digital stuff. That's what we're gonna have. Have presets for certain things and stuff like that, so, but we're, I mean, the software, it's actually pretty darn good equipment because it's doing what we're asking it to do. But we have channels going down all the time. Oh, oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I think we're not sure what the problem is with that right projector, the left projector. Had a power outage that someday. And when power came back on, it did. And so, the user for that power trying to build the bulb. But I think if we can fix it, we just have to get